So, my name is Tahir Abbas. I'm currently an associate professor in terrorism and political violence at Leiden University here in The Hague. I've been working on issues of ethnicity, migration, diaspora, politics, and extremism for over a decade and a half, and I've been living and working in 3 different countries so far. So obviously, when we think about understanding Islam, we have to use the Quran. The Quran is the central tenet of the faith, but we also have access to things like the Hadith. We also have the Sunnah, and the Sunnah is the practice of the Prophet, which has been well documented. We also have the Seerah of the Prophet, so we can understand the life, the experience, the journey, and the messages that have come out from the establishment of the faith. These are the primary Islamic sources, and of course there are other numerous secondary sources, and these are translations and transliterations and interpretations, and there we get into slightly trickier waters because there's so much to choose from, and that's where we have to be extra careful. So there is a little bit of a critical reflection we always need as human beings, even when it comes to our faith. It doesn't mean that we have to always challenge and confront, but we need to have a critical mind that continues to ask relevant questions for today. Because Islam is 1400 years old, that's 1400 years of a journey. And in today's world, in today's times, we have certain needs and hopes, certain questions about our lives, which are not really questions 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 200 years ago. So we have to make sure that we use this interpretation in a way that's relevant for today. And for that, we sometimes need guidance. We need to be able to look to different sources, intellectual sources, theological sources, to be able to make up our mind in a fair and balanced way. I think one of the key messages from the Prophet is to find the middle path. And I think Islam teaches us the middle path, and we need to ensure that we live to the middle path in today's world too. And sometimes it's difficult to do that for some people. As a believer, we believe in the authenticity and the originality and the sincerity of the message that is in the Quran, which is the seal of a faith that has taken many iterations to complete. So as a believer, you have to believe that. So you have to have that as your starting point. But that doesn't mean that it's a closed universe. We can be completely faithful to our ideas that emanate from religion and faith and practice, but we can have a very logical, very scientific mind, and that allows us to ask questions and push forward on principles of science, technology, and we are inspired by having a greater understanding of our position in this universe and where we've come from. But it means that this is a beginning to ask even bigger questions about the nature of our existence. There are different ways of looking at one thing, and it's up to us using our human minds, our abilities to reflect and find balance through this, with the support of others around us. We don't have to do this on our own. There's plenty of material and there are plenty of resources. You just have to have the effort and the desire, and I think most people do find it. It's just when people don't put the effort in, they're too accepting of what's thrown at them with casual searches, accept this as the likely outcome, and take it for granted, and often it's wrong or problematic. And that's really what's happening in a lot of cases when we think of extremism, etc. When we think about extremism and terrorism, the problem isn't the terrorism or the terrorist, it's everything else. It's society, it's the construction of terrorism, it's the experience of the individual, it's their individual stories. And that's what I think work on radicalization is telling us, that a lot of the policy framing has been the wrong way around. And the war on terror and 9/11 were real features in this. And if we think about investing in communities, investing in traditions of faith, from that we'll get ideas of belonging and loyalty to the nation, feeling a sense of belonging, taking part in society. That's been denied because of Islamophobia, because of racism. So people go elsewhere and find it in these dodgy paths. We can cut off the dodgy paths by ensuring that people can find alternative solutions, and we can empower communities to be resilient, not because it's a kind of fight against Islamist extremism, it's because it's about being good citizens, having the facility to do that, protected by a state that invests in communities. Overall, I mean, I think it's important that the work you're doing is excellent, really. It's about trying to make Muslims understand that their faith is an open book, not a closed book, and that it's a religion of peace, justice, and humility. That it's about the self as much as it is about how you relate to others around you. And I think those are very simple and very powerful messages that would appeal to all sorts of minds. And our faith traditions are a culmination of the Abrahamic traditions, and they sit on top of each other, they relate very closely. We share so many aspects of our traditions and our values with our Christian and Jewish brothers and sisters, and I think all this enmity between Christians and Jews and Islam just needs to go away. I think we're better than this. History has proven that. It's just right now the politics are difficult and very heavy, and we have to be wise to it.